Dr. Nari Kim was examining alien plant samples in her laboratory when the message arrived. The holographic display flickered to life, showing symbols she had never seen before. Her translation device struggled for a moment before the words became clear. It was an invitation from the Galactic Council, requesting her presence at their headquarters in 3 days. Her hands trembled as she read the message again. No human had ever received such an invitation. Captain Daypark was in the middle of training exercises when his communication device buzzed urgently. He paused the simulation and opened the message. His jaw dropped as he read the same invitation that Dr. Kim had received. The Galactic Council wanted to meet with them about Earth's classification as a Class 12 death world. He had heard rumors about such classifications, but never imagined they applied to his own planet. Within hours, the two were sitting in a secure government facility, surrounded by officials who seemed just as confused as they were. The invitation was real, verified by multiple sources. Earth had been classified as a Class 12 death world by an intergalactic organization that humanity had never known existed. According to the message, this was the highest danger rating possible, reserved for planets where no intelligent life could possibly survive. Dr. Kim studied the star charts they provided her, mind racing. "This doesn't make sense," she said, pointing to the coordinates. "If Earth is classified as uninhabitable, how do they explain our existence? We have cities, technology, space travel. We're clearly alive and intelligent." Captain Park nodded. Grimly, "Maybe that's exactly why they want to meet with us. Think about it from their perspective. For thousands of years, they've believed that planets like Earth are death traps. Then suddenly, they discover not only that humans exist, but that we've developed advanced civilization on what they consider the most dangerous type of world possible." The implications were staggering. If the Galactic Council had been wrong about Earth, what else might they be wrong about? Dr. Kim realized this meeting could change everything humanity thought they knew about their place in the universe. They weren't just going to answer questions about their planet. They were about to challenge beliefs that had been held for millennia. As they prepared for the journey, both scientists felt the weight of representing their entire species. The invitation was polite, but there was an underlying tension in the formal language. Were they being invited as honored guests to share their knowledge, or were they being summoned as specimens to be studied? The Council's message mentioned that Earth's classification had raised concerns among member species. Captain Park spent the next day reviewing Earth's defensive capabilities, while Dr. Kim gathered data about human biology and adaptation. Neither knew what to expect, but both understood that this meeting would determine humanity's relationship with the wider galaxy. They were about to step into a universe where their very existence was considered impossible. Counselor Prime Velthry rose from his crystalline throne, his multiple eyes gleaming with what could only be described as contempt. The massive alien's voice boomed across the chamber as he addressed the two humans standing in the center of the hall. "You dare to claim that your species thrives on a Class 12 death world? We have classified thousands of worlds across the galaxy, and never once has intelligent life emerged from such hostile environments." The holographic projectors around the chamber hummed to life, filling the air with three-dimensional images of planets that made the assembled aliens shudder visibly. The first world appeared before them, a planet covered in active volcanoes, spewing lava into blood-red skies. Toxic gases swirled in the atmosphere, and the surface temperature readings showed numbers that would instantly kill most species in the Council. "Behold Period 7, Velthary announced with satisfaction. "Surface temperatures exceed 800 degrees. Atmosphere is pure sulfur dioxide. Even our most advanced protective suits would fail within minutes. Tell us, how would your resilient species survive such conditions?" Captain Park stepped forward, studying the holographic planet with genuine interest, rather than fear. "Volcanic activity means geothermal energy sources," he said calmly. "The sulfur compounds could be processed for industrial use. Cave systems would provide natural shelter, and the mineral deposits would be incredibly valuable." His casual tone sent murmurs through the alien audience. Dr. Kim nodded in agreement. "Many Earth organisms thrive in similar conditions. We have bacteria that live in boiling sulfur springs, and entire ecosystems that depend on volcanic activity for energy. With proper technology, humans could establish thriving colonies on a world like this. The second hologram materialized, showing a frozen wasteland where temperatures dropped to -200 degrees, ice storms raged across the surface, and the thin atmosphere offered no protection from cosmic radiation. Several council members actually moved backward in their seats. As if the image itself posed a threat, Glacia's Prime Velthary declared, "Nothing can survive such extreme cold. The radiation alone would destroy any living tissue within hours." He leaned forward expectantly, waiting for the humans to finally show fear. Instead, Captain Park smiled. "Antarctica on Earth reaches similar temperatures, and we have research stations there. The ice would provide unlimited water once melted, and underground installations could maintain comfortable temperatures using nuclear power. The lack of atmosphere actually makes it easier to launch spacecraft." Dr. Kim added, "Cold preserves organic materials perfectly. Food storage would be simple, and many industrial processes work better in extreme cold. We could harvest rare isotopes from the cosmic radiation using proper shielding." The third world appeared, a planet perpetually shrouded in darkness, with gravity 3 times Earth normal. Acid rain fell constantly, and the few land masses were covered in poisonous swamps, filled with predatory creatures that the Council had classified as nightmare organisms. "Surely this world would defeat even your impossible claims," Velthary said, his voice now carrying a note of desperation. Captain Park examined the readings carefully. High gravity means stronger bone density and muscle development. Would be perfect for solar panel efficiency during the brief daylight periods. As for the acid rain, we could neutralize it and use the chemical compounds for manufacturing. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. These humans weren't just surviving their own death world. They were looking at the galaxy's most dangerous planets and seeing opportunities instead of threats. Dr. Kim reached into her briefcase and pulled out a datapad that glowed with Earth's blue light. The simple gesture caused several council members to lean forward in their seats, curious about what the humans might reveal next. Captain Park stood beside her, his expression serious as he prepared to deliver information that would shake the very foundations of galactic civilization. "Before we came here," Dr. Kim began, her voice carrying clearly across the silent chamber, "we did our homework, studied every piece of information we could find about the Galactic Council and your member species. What we discovered will surprise you." She activated the holographic display, and a star map appeared, showing the home systems of various council species. Red markers began appearing on several worlds, indicating Deathworld classifications that had been mysteriously and changed over time. The council members stirred uneasily as they recognized their own star systems among the marked locations. The hegemony's homeworld of Cathara was originally classified as a Class 9 Death World, Dr. Kim announced. "Your official records now listed as a Class 3 Garden World, but the original geological surveys tell a different story. Extreme weather patterns, predatory wildlife, and atmospheric conditions that would kill most species within hours." Councillor Rekthan of the hegemony shot to his feet, his scales rattling with anger. "These are lies. Our world has always been peaceful and safe." Captain Park stepped forward, holding up another datapad. "We have the original survey reports. From 2,847 years ago. Your ancestors evolved on a world where massive storms could level entire cities, where the native animals had natural armor plating, and where the atmospheric pressure was so intense that most species would be crushed flat. The chamber erupted in whispers and gasps as other council members began recognizing the pattern. Dr. Kim continued her presentation, revealing world after world where the official records had been altered. Each revelation hit like a thunderbolt, showing that species after species had actually evolved on what should have been classified as death worlds. The crystalline collective's homeworld originally had toxic crystal formations that released deadly gases, she explained. The floating mines evolved on a world with gravity so weak that most species would float away into space. And the burrowing clans came from a planet where acid rain fell constantly, and underground was the only safe place to live. One by one, representatives began standing and demanding explanations. The neat, orderly chamber descended into chaos as species that had considered themselves civilized and refined discovered their own brutal origins. The political implications were staggering. If these species had evolved on Deathworlds, why? Were they now living on safe, comfortable worlds? Dr. Kim raised her voice above the noise. The pattern is clear. The Council has been systematically reclassifying worlds to hide the truth about Deathworld species. You've been moving successful species off their original homeworlds and settling them on safer planets, then rewriting history to make it seem like they always lived there. Captain Park added the final piece of evidence. We found records of massive terraforming projects, forced relocations, and memory modification programs. The Council hasn't just been lying to the galaxy, they've been lying to their own member species about their true nature. The chamber fell silent as the weight of the revelation sank in. These aliens weren't the fragile, peaceful species they believed themselves to be. They were the descendants of Deathworld survivors, just like humans. But they had been systematically weakened in their histories, erased to maintain the Council's power structure. Dr. Kim looked around the chamber at the hundreds of alien faces staring at her with a mixture of fear and disbelief. The revelations about their hidden histories had shaken them, but she could see doubt still lingering in their eyes. Words alone wouldn't be enough to convince them of humanity's true capabilities. She needed to show them something they would never forget. You want proof that Deathworld species are different? She asked, her voice echoing in the suddenly quiet chamber. Let us demonstrate. She reached for the helmet of her environmental suit, and the entire council chamber erupted in panic. Aliens jumped from their seats, security guards moved forward, and emergency alarms began blaring throughout the station. The atmospheric readings showed conditions that would be lethal to most species present: low oxygen, high radiation, and atmospheric pressure that could crush delicate respiratory systems. Stop, Counselor Prime Veltheri shouted, his voice cracking with genuine terror. You'll kill yourselves. The atmosphere in this chamber is designed for emergency situations only. Ow. No organic being can survive without protection. Captain Park calmly removed his helmet as well, ignoring the horrified gasps from the audience. On Earth, we call this fresh air, he said, taking a deep breath of the thin atmosphere. This is actually more comfortable than the recycled air inside these suits. Dr. Kim stretched her arms above her head, feeling the freedom of movement without the bulky suit restrictions. Your deadly atmosphere has more oxygen than the top of Mount Everest, where humans climb for sport. The radiation levels are lower than what we experience during commercial spaceflight. The two humans began walking around the chamber, moving with an ease that seemed impossible to the watching aliens. Where council members needed mechanical assistance to move in the station's gravity, the humans walked naturally. Where others required breathing apparatus, they breathed normally. Where protective suits were mandatory, they wore simple clothing. Watch this, Captain Park said, dropping to the floor and beginning a series of push-ups. The aliens stared in amazement as he performed 50 repetitions without showing any signs of fatigue. This is basic human exercise. We do this to stay healthy. Dr. Kim spotted a cargo container near the chamber entrance, marked with warnings about its weight and the need for mechanical lifting equipment. She walked over and, to the horror of the watching council, lifted the container above her head. With both hands, the weight that required machinery for most species was manageable for a human who regularly exercised. This weighs about as much as a large bag of groceries on Earth, she explained, setting it down gently. Our children could lift this once they reach their teenage years. The demonstration continued as both humans jogged around the perimeter of the chamber. Their breathing remained steady, their movements fluid, while council members watched in stunned silence. What they were witnessing should have been impossible: organic beings thriving in conditions that would kill most known species. Captain Park paused in front of a group of particularly shocked aliens. This is what Deathworld evolution creates, he said simply. We're not trying to intimidate you. We're trying to help you understand that your entire classification system is wrong. The chamber remained silent, except for the sound of human breathing. Steady, calm, and completely natural in an environment the council considered a death trap. Dr. Kim activated her holographic display once more. But this time the images that appeared made several council members shift uncomfortably in their seats. The display showed detailed mining operations on worlds that the council had officially declared uninhabitable. Massive automated extractors moved across hostile landscapes, harvesting rare minerals and energy sources while no organic beings were anywhere to be seen. "Ladies and gentlemen of the council," Dr. Kim began, her voice carrying a tone of disappointment that somehow made the accusation even more powerful. "We've uncovered something that changes everything we thought we knew about your organization." First image showed a volcanic world similar to the one they had discussed earlier. But instead of the barren wasteland the council claimed it to be, the surface was covered with sophisticated mining equipment. Automated harvesters moved through rivers of lava, extracting rare metals that could only be found in such extreme conditions. "This is Period 7, the world you showed us earlier," Captain Park explained, pointing to the mining operations. "According to your public records, this planet is completely uninhabitable. Yet here we see council mining ships extracting millions of credits worth of rare minerals every month." The chamber erupted in murmurs and whispers. Several council members looked genuinely shocked, as if they were learning this information for the first time. Others, however, kept their expressions carefully neutral, which told the humans everything they needed to know about who was involved in the deception. Dr. Kim switched to another image, showing the frozen world they had discussed. Here, too, mining operations were clearly visible. Automated systems carved through the ice, extracting precious gases and rare isotopes that were essential for advanced technology throughout the galaxy. "Glacius Prime," she announced. "Another supposedly uninhabitable world. Yet the Council has been mining it for over 300 years. The energy sources extracted from this single planet power 12 major star systems." The evidence continued to mount as image after image revealed the same pattern. World after world that had been classified as Deathworlds were actually treasure. Troves of resources that the Council had been secretly harvesting. The automated systems allowed them to extract wealth from planets they were too afraid to set foot on. While maintaining the fiction that these worlds were worthless, Captain Park pulled up shipping records that showed the scope of the operation. "We tracked Council fleet movements for the past 50 years, he said. "Cargo ships regularly traveled to over 200 supposedly uninhabitable worlds. The mineral wealth being extracted is staggering enough to fund the entire Council operation and more." The most damning evidence came next. Dr. Kim displayed financial records showing how the profits from Deathworld mining were being distributed. The highest-ranking council members received the largest shares, while lower-ranking species received nothing. The entire power structure of the galactic government was built on resources extracted from worlds they claimed were too dangerous to approach. "The Council hasn't just been lying about the nature of Deathworlds," Dr. Kim said, her voice growing stronger with each word. "You've been profiting from them while denying that intelligent life could exist on such planets. You've built your entire civilization on the backs of worlds you refuse to acknowledge as habitable." The silence in the chamber was deafening as the implications sank in. The Council's moral authority, their scientific credibility, and their political legitimacy were all built on a foundation of lies and exploitation. "Counselor." Prime Velthry's face had turned a deep shade of purple, his multiple eyes blazing with fury as he rose from his throne. The revelations about the Council's secret mining operations had clearly struck a nerve, and his calm, diplomatic facade was crumbling before everyone's eyes. He pointed one of his long, clawed fingers directly at the two humans standing in the center of the chamber. "Arrest them," he shouted, his voice echoing off the crystalline walls. These creatures have committed acts of espionage against the Galactic Council. They've stolen classified information and are spreading lies to undermine our authority." Security. Guards began moving toward Dr. Kim and Captain Park, but their advance was halted by something unexpected. Representatives from dozens of species throughout the chamber had risen to their feet, creating a protective barrier around the humans. The burrowing clans, the crystalline collective, the floating mines, all the species whose true histories had been revealed were now standing together. "Wait," called out Counselor Theckerin of the burrowing clans, his voice shaking with emotion. "If what these humans say is true, then we've all been deceived. I demand a full investigation into my homeworld's classification. Dr. Kim smiled grimly as she watched the chaos unfold. I'm afraid it's too late for arrests, Counselor Prime, she said, holding up her communication device. Everything we've revealed here today has been broadcast live throughout the galactic network. Millions of beings across hundreds of worlds are watching this right now. The color drained from Velthari's face as he realized the magnitude of what had just happened. The carefully constructed lies that had held the Council together for millennia were now public knowledge. There would be no covering this up, no hiding the truth from the galaxy. Captain Park stepped forward, his expression deadly serious. We came here hoping for peaceful dialogue, he said. We wanted to share our knowledge and help build a better understanding between species. But instead, we've discovered corruption on a scale that threatens the entire galactic community. More representatives began demanding answers. The chamber filled with angry voices as species after species realized they had been lied to about their own histories. The neat, orderly council session had devolved into something approaching a riot, with security guards unable to maintain control. You want to arrest us for espionage? Dr. Kim asked, her voice cutting through the noise. Then explain to the galaxy why the Council has been secretly mining Deathworlds for centuries while claiming they're uninhabitable. Explain why you've been rewriting the histories of your own member species. Velthary tried to regain control of the situation. These accusations are baseless. The humans are clearly terrorists sent to destabilize our government. Captain Park pulled out another data pad, this one glowing with an ominous red light. We have detailed information about every Deathworld in Council space, he announced. Complete mining records, financial transactions, and evidence of historical manipulation going back over 3,000 years. If anything happens to us, all of this information will be automatically released to every major news network in the galaxy. The threat hung in the air like a sword over the Council's head. Velthary looked around the chamber, seeing fear and anger on the faces of representatives who had once been his loyal supporters. The humans had done more than expose his secrets. They had shattered the very foundation of Council authority. What do you want? Velthary asked quietly, his voice barely audible above the continuing chaos. Dr. Kim and Captain Park exchanged glances. They had prepared for this moment, knowing that the confrontation would eventually come down to a simple choice: reform or destruction. Dr. Kim stepped forward, her voice cutting through the chaos that had engulfed the council chamber. The angry shouting and demands for answers gradually died down as hundreds of alien representatives turned their attention to the small, human woman who had just shattered their understanding of galactic civilization. The time for lies and deception is over, she announced, her words carrying the weight of absolute certainty. We didn't come here to destroy your government or cause chaos. We came here to offer you a chance to do the right thing. Captain Park moved to stand beside her, his military bearing evident as he surveyed the assembled aliens. What happens next depends entirely on your choices in the next few minutes, he said. You can continue down the path of corruption and deceit, or you can choose to build something better. The chamber fell silent as the implications of their words sank in. Even Counselor Prime Velthary seemed to understand that this was no longer a simple diplomatic meeting. The humans held the power to expose centuries of lies. Everyone present knew it. Dr. Kim activated her holographic display one final time, showing a list of demands that appeared in the universal galactic language. First, the Council must immediately declassify every Deathworld in your database. No more lies about uninhabitable planets. The galaxy deserves to know the truth about these worlds and the species that could thrive on them. Murmurs rippled through the audience as representatives began to understand the scope of what was being asked. Reclassifying Deathworlds would mean acknowledging that the Council's scientific authority had been built on false premises. Second, Captain Park continued, full reparations must be provided to every system that has been secretly mined. Wealth extracted from these worlds belongs to the species that could have been living there, not to council members who were too afraid to visit them. The financial implications were staggering. Centuries of mining operations had generated enormous profits that would now need to be redistributed. Several council members looked physically ill as they contemplated the economic consequences. Third, and most importantly, Dr. Kim said, her voice growing stronger, Deathworld species must be granted full representation in galactic governance. No more treating us as curiosities or threats. We demand equal voice in decisions that affect the entire galaxy. The political ramifications were even more dramatic than the financial ones. Deathworld species, with their superior adaptability and resilience, had fundamentally changed the balance of power in galactic politics. Captain Park pulled out the datapad with the red warning light, holding it where everyone could see. If these demands are not met within 72 hours, all of our evidence will be released to every major news network, scientific institution, and political organization in the galaxy. The Council's crimes will become public knowledge, and your authority will be finished. But Dr. Kim had an even more devastating revelation. We're not acting alone, she announced. While you've been focused on keeping Deathworld species isolated and hidden, we've been building alliances. There are 47 Deathworld civilizations that have been secretly coordinating for the past decade. The chamber erupted in shocked gasps. The idea that dozens of Deathworld species had been working together without the Council's knowledge was terrifying to beings who had built their power on information control. These civilizations control access to the rare resources that keep your fragile worlds running, Captain Park added. Cut off those supply lines and most Council worlds would face economic collapse within months. The ultimatum was clear, and the consequences of refusal were catastrophic. The 72-hour deadline passed with unprecedented speed across the galaxy. News networks broadcast continuously as the story of the Council's deception spread to every inhabited world. Protests erupted on dozens of planets as citizens demanded answers about their own histories and classifications. The carefully maintained order that had governed galactic civilization for millennia was crumbling in real time. Dr. Kim stood in the same council chamber where she had delivered the ultimatum, but now the atmosphere was completely different. Gone was the arrogant superiority of the council members. Instead, she saw fear, resignation, and in some cases, genuine shame on the faces of the alien representatives who had once dismissed her as a primitive curiosity. Counselor Prime Veltheri approached the podium with visible reluctance. His multiple eyes were dim, and his usual commanding presence had been replaced by the posture of a defeated leader. The Galactic Council hereby agrees to all demands presented by the Deathworld Alliance, he announced, his voice barely audible in the vast chamber. The words triggered an immediate transformation throughout the galaxy. Within hours, massive data dumps began appearing on public networks as thousands of classified documents were released. The true histories of dozens of species were revealed, showing their Deathworld origins and the systematic manipulation of their records. Mining operations on hundreds of worlds were exposed, along with the financial networks that had enriched council members for centuries. Captain Park watched the proceedings with satisfaction as species after species stepped forward to reclaim their true heritage. The burrowing clans proudly announced their origins on a world of constant acid rain and underground predators. The Crystalline Collective revealed their evolution on a planet where toxic crystals had forced them to develop advanced filtering systems. Each revelation strengthened the growing alliance of Deathworld species. The most dramatic change came when the first Deathworld ships began arriving at major galactic hubs. These vessels, built to withstand conditions that would destroy traditional spacecraft, carried representatives from civilizations that had been hiding in the galaxy's most dangerous regions. The technological capabilities they displayed were far beyond anything the Council had imagined possible. Dr. Kim found herself appointed as the first director of Deathworld Relations, a position that gave her authority over the integration of dozens of previously unknown civilizations. Her first official act was to establish research stations on former uninhabitable worlds, where scientists from all species could study the incredible adaptations that made life possible in extreme conditions. Captain Park took command of the new Galactic Defense Force, which was primarily staffed by Deathworld species. The irony was not lost on anyone that the galaxy's protection now rested in the hands of beings who had been considered impossible threats just weeks earlier. His forces were smaller than the old council military, but their capabilities were exponentially greater. The economic transformation was equally dramatic. Reparations flowed to Deathworld systems as mining profits were redistributed. Worlds that had been secretly harvested for centuries suddenly found themselves wealthy beyond imagination. The shift in economic power changed trade routes and political alliances throughout the galaxy. Within 6 months, the old council structure had been completely replaced by a new federation where Deathworld species held equal representation. The galaxy's most resilient and adaptable civilizations now guided policy, bringing a pragmatic approach to problems that had seemed unsolvable under the old system. The age of deception was over, replaced by an era of truth, strength, and unprecedented cooperation between species that had once been enemies or strangers